Here's Guy Wehman, Ben Brunson, and Frank Vernuccio inside the news.
Welcome back to our final segment of Inside the News, and we're going to put a bow on the program here. Belarus. You only hear about the country of Belarus only in the Olympics and things of that nature, but Ben's got some interesting facts about Belarus. Go ahead for it.
Well, Belarus is pretty strategically located. It's nestled between Poland and Russia, right in the heart of Central Europe there. And it, like the Ukraine up until 2014, is led by a strong man who is backed by Putin and supports Russia in return. And there have not been free and fair elections for the last quarter century. Alexander Lukashenko is the strong man who leads that country, and there is a revolution underway that is very similar to the Maidan revolution in Ukraine, and the results could be very similar. The people have had enough of false elections. The opponent in this latest election undoubtedly won the popular vote, and yet Lukashenko was declared the winner. Millions of Belarusians are on the streets, and revolution is very much in the air and possible. Just what happened in Ukraine, where a pro-Russian administration was overthrown and the new administration turned the West. And the Russians reacted to that in Ukraine by invading Crimea and ultimately the Donbass. That is on the table here, and that is why it is worth talking about, and Americans should be aware of what's going on in Belarus, because you could see that type of reaction from Vladimir Putin, who's been aggressive at killing his opposition, poisoning another well-known Navalny, another well-known opposition leader inside Russia. He's killed a lot of his opponents, and the fall of Belarus into the Western orbit, the pro-European orbit, could create big issues for the world.
All right, we're halfway through here, and we got to get to our hot button topics before we run out of time. And Frank, I'll tell you what, we're going to put you on first dibs. Go.
The hypocrisy of the left is startling and getting worse by the moment. In city throughout city, where the politicians are talking about defunding the police, they're also spending a lot of taxpayer dollars on increasing their personal protection detail. The latest, of course, we've seen is Mayor Lightfoot of Chicago, who has ordered her police force to concentrate their strength on protecting, guess what? Her block. Now, Chicago has seen more murders recently, certainly in the 2020 time period, than most small wars produce. And yet the mayor is no fan of the police. She has tried to handicap them at every turn. She's also tried to handicap her own citizens from protecting themselves with legal weapons. Nevertheless, she's using taxpayer dollars to station police in great numbers on her own block. Hypocrisy is astounding.
Yeah, the old double standard there, right, Frank?
Absolutely.
Okay, Ben, you're up.
Well, we're in the annual fire season in California, and we get the headlines of global warming and how this has created fires. I want to hit our listeners with some real statistics so they can understand that science is often ignored and the altar of global warming religion in this country. Annually, over the last decade, about 2 to 2.5 million acres have burned in this country. It is an age-old cycle. It's part of nature. It's always happened out west in particular. But if you want a real bad period, go to the 30s, when it was much hotter and drier across the United States, and it peaked in 1938. And during the year of 1938, and you don't hear many global scientists, warming scientists, talk about 1930s anymore. In 38, 21 million acres were burned in this country in wildfires, 10 times the typical average we see now. There were headlines like Los Angeles is burning, and expectations that all of LA may be burned to the ground because the fires were so bad back in the day. Much hotter, drier temperatures. We've had a global cooling spell since the 30s with the recent uptick in the late 20th century. So you need to study the data, the reality, and you have to dig into why it is most global warming advocates only go back to World War II with their data and ignore what happened in the early part of the 20th century.
The 30s, I think of the Dust Bowl. And,
that's exactly right.
Yeah. All right. This is Inside the News. Glad to have you with us this week. And you can check us out at itnradio.com and SoundCloud, YouTube, and AUN TV. And we want to thank you, especially all of our radio affiliates across the country, for carrying the program. Thanks so much today, Frank.
Great being with you, and thanks to our audience.
And thank you, Ben.
Thank you, guys. Thank you to our listeners.
And until next week, stay safe and stay strong.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.